Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can heal what all the world's wealth could not. Before we begin, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel, because today's story will touch your heart in ways you never expected. Stay till the very end. You'll want to see how a poor boy's courage changed not only one girl's life, but an entire family's destiny. The story begins in the heart of New York City, where billionaire businessman Arthur Wellington lived in a glass mansion overlooking the skyline. To the outside world, Arthur had everything: wealth, power, influence, and a beautiful family. But inside those tall glass walls was silence. His 10-year-old daughter, Lila, rarely spoke. She didn't look people in the eye. She preferred sitting alone by the window, staring at the fluttering curtains, humming softly to herself. Her mother, Clara, thought it was just a phase. "She's shy," she told the teachers when they called. "She just needs time." Arthur, however, was too busy to notice. His world revolved around board meetings, charity events, and media appearances. Whenever he came home late, he would glance at Lila, sitting cross-legged on the floor, building towers with blocks, and sigh. "She's just quiet," he'd mutter. "She'll grow out of it." But she didn't. By the time Lila turned 11, her silence deepened. She avoided noise, covered her ears when people laughed, and flinched at bright lights. She never hugged anyone, not even her parents. At school, other kids whispered about her. Some laughed. Some avoided her altogether. And then came the cruelest day. During recess, a group of children began mocking Lila as she spun in circles, humming to herself. The teachers didn't intervene. They were used to her odd behavior. It wasn't until one boy, Ethan, a scholarship student who worked part-time at a nearby bakery, stepped forward that everything changed. "Stop it!" Ethan shouted, shielding her. "Can't you see she's scared?" The bullies laughed, but Ethan didn't move. He helped Lila sit down, offered her his juice box, and sat beside her quietly. He didn't try to talk. He just stayed. For the first time in her life, Lila smiled, not a big smile, but a small flicker of comfort. It was enough. From that day, Ethan became her silent friend. He'd walk with her to the bus, sit with her during lunch, and wait patiently when she couldn't speak. While others ignored her strange habits, Ethan observed. He noticed she loved drawing patterns in the sand. He saw how her eyes followed the rhythm of swinging leaves. He realized she wasn't broken. She was just different. One day, after school, he followed her to the art room. She sat on the floor with a box of chalk and began drawing circles, lines, spirals, all connected. When she finished, Ethan's eyes widened. It wasn't random, it was a pattern, a perfect mathematical symmetry that looked like something from a computer design. "You're amazing," he whispered. Lila didn't respond, but she looked at him, really looked, for the first time. Meanwhile, Arthur's world began to crumble. His business faced a massive loss due to a failed project. Reporters swarmed his mansion. His partners threatened to pull out. In his frustration, he scolded everyone, including Lila. "Can't you at least say something?" he shouted one night when she didn't respond to his question. Lila flinched and ran to her room, tears streaming down her face. Ethan, who had come to drop off a school report that day, overheard everything. Later, he found Lila curled up by her window. Without a word, he sat beside her, took out a small music box he'd bought from a thrift shop, and wound it up. The soft tune filled the room, gentle and calm. Lila listened, her breathing slowing. Then she pointed to the tiny ballerina spinning inside and whispered her first words to him. "Beautiful." It was the first word she had spoken to anyone outside her family. The next morning, Arthur's assistant informed him that someone had been spending time with his daughter, a poor bakery boy. Furious, Arthur ordered to keep Ethan away. "I won't have some street kid meddling in my family," he said coldly. When Ethan tried to meet Lila at school, he was stopped by security. Lila didn't understand what was happening. For days, she waited by the window, clutching the music box. She refused to eat, refused to draw, refused to go to class. Clara noticed the change and grew worried. "Arthur," she said one night, "I think Ethan is the only one who truly understands her." Arthur refused to listen. "We can afford the best therapists in the world. She doesn't need a boy from the streets." But money couldn't buy what Ethan gave her, understanding. Weeks passed, and Lila's condition worsened. She started having meltdowns at night, covering her ears and crying uncontrollably. The doctors called it sensory overload. Arthur was helpless. For the first time in his life, he didn't know how to fix something with money. One day, Clara found Ethan outside their mansion gate, holding a small notebook. "Please," he said softly, "I think I can help her." Clara hesitated but eventually let him in. When Lila saw Ethan, she ran toward him and hugged him tightly, something she had never done before. Arthur, who stood watching from the stairs, froze. His daughter, who never touched anyone, was hugging a boy from the streets. Ethan opened his notebook and showed Arthur the drawings Lila made at school. "She sees the world differently," he explained. "These aren't just doodles. They're patterns, ways her mind organizes what she feels. She's not ignoring you. She just communicates differently. I read about something called autism. I think she might have it." Arthur stared at him, speechless. For years, he had ignored the signs, her silence, her reactions, her habits, thinking she was just quiet. But this poor boy, with no resources, no degree, saw what he never could. The next day, they took Lila to a specialist. The diagnosis confirmed Ethan's suspicion, autism spectrum disorder. Arthur sat in silence as the doctor explained how Lila's mind worked, sensitive to noise, overwhelmed by lights, needing structure and calm. When the doctor finished, Arthur turned to Ethan. "You saw her when we didn't," he said quietly. "How?" Ethan smiled shyly. "Because sometimes, people like us don't look with our eyes. We look with our hearts." From that day, Arthur changed. He canceled business meetings to spend time with Lila. He built her a quiet room filled with art supplies and music. He funded autism awareness programs across the city. But most importantly, he hired Ethan, not as a servant, but as Lila's official art and learning companion. The bond between Ethan and Lila grew deeper. Together, they painted murals that reflected her thoughts, swirling galaxies, patterns of light, shapes that no one else could imagine. News spread about the billionaire's daughter who expressed herself through art. Her paintings began to sell at charity auctions, and every dollar went toward helping other autistic children. Years later, Lila stood on a stage, now a young woman of 18, as the audience applauded her new art exhibit. She still didn't speak much, but she didn't need to. Her art spoke louder than words. Ethan, now a young man studying psychology, stood beside her. When a reporter asked Arthur what inspired this transformation, he smiled and said, "A poor boy saw the beauty we were too blind to see." The story ends with Lila presenting Ethan with the same old music box he gave her years ago. She pressed play, and as the tune filled the hall, she whispered again, the same word she said the day they met. "Beautiful." Ethan smiled, tears in his eyes. "No," he said softly. "You are." Sometimes, the richest people are those who see with compassion, not with money. Understanding someone's silence can be the loudest act of love.